ahead and introduce our amazing panelists this evening. We have KM Entertainment's founder, Kamal Malak. His list of accomplishments as a producer, songwriter, singer, bassist, sound designer, and visionary directly reflects his desire to create stories with integrity without regard for convention and genre. His most notable success came when he joined Grammy Award-winning music group Arrested Development. Kamal currently resides in Nashville, Tennessee, where his production company, KM Entertainment, has created music and develops branding applications for various B2B, B2C, and e-commerce initiatives. KM Entertainment has also worked with film and TV clients, which includes MTV's Real World, Fox, FX Networks, Coca-Cola, NBA, NFL, Churchill Downs, Kentucky Derby, and TBS. Can we give him a round of applause as he comes up? Yeah, you can sit down. Get comfortable. All right, next we have Mimi McCarley. She is an upcoming songwriter producer with an ability to emulate chart-topping records. Her top-line melody, strong concepts, and simple lyric approach makes her an addition to any writing or production team. She has a passion for making commercially visible music and for providing production support for the artist. She is a native from Dayton, Ohio, resides in Hendersonville, Tennessee, and is a 2004 graduate of Middle Tennessee State University's Recording Industry Management Program. Can we give Mimi a round of applause? And last, but certainly not least, we have a Kansas native, Jen Schott, who is currently serving as the NSAI treasurer and has been heavily involved in the organization for the past several years, teaching workshops, playing shows, and visiting Washington, D.C. Jen's songs have been recorded by artists including Tim McGraw, the Eli Young Band, Gloriana, Jana Kramer, Lucy Hale, Francesca Battistelli, Billy Ray Cyrus, Pam Tillis, Lone Star, and the list goes on. Jen co-wrote Mickey Guyton's debut single, Better Than You Left Me, which was named one of the Billboard's top 10 best country music songs of 2015. Let's give her a round of applause for that. She has penned the title track of Tim McGraw's Grammy-nominated album, Two Lanes of Freedom, which was the namesake of McGraw's 2013 summer tour as well. Her past singles include Restless Hearts, Feel My Way to You, Unseen, Billy Ray Cyrus's A Good Day, and pop artist Lucy Walsh's 1882. In addition to her success in the U.S. country market, Jen has also had songs released by top-selling artists in Canada and Australia. Can we give our astounding panelists another round of applause? So the first question that I prepared is, what inspired you to do this work? What inspired you to become a songwriter? And we can just, whoever wants to jump in, or...
Music. You know, I'm from Philly, and Philly's a very musical town. Although I don't have any other musicians or songwriters in my family, but music was all around me since a baby. I remember, you know, we had music at the dinner table, at the breakfast table, at the lunch table, and so it's just been a part of my life. And then I say around 12, I actually heard the bass guitar, and that changed my life.
Did it for you?
Yeah, because Philly's a very bass guitar oriented city. It's a bass. Stanley Clarke, Gerald Beasley, Jaco Pastorius lived in Norristown for a little while. The list goes on. Kristen McBride. I mean, world-renowned bassists come from Philly, so it's in the water.
You drank the water.
Yes, I drank the punch. I got addicted. Yes.
I was similar in that music was in the water. Not really so much in my town, but in my house. Growing up, my father was a professor of woodwinds and taught clarinet, saxophone, flute at the university in my hometown, and my mom is a flutist. And in the summers, they would be in the orchestra pit for the musical theater, for the university and community theater. So I started doing that at a young age because they were taking me to the rehearsals. I'm like, well, I might as well try to audition and be on these shows. And so music was just kind of central in our home, and played piano and took flute growing up, and kind of accidentally started making up songs, probably in middle school, you know, that angsty middle school time. And and then eventually discovered that it's actually a career path. Not till I moved to Nashville many years later, but yeah, music's always been there.
I'm gonna say music as well. Growing up in church, you're always exposed to music. I'm from Dayton, Ohio, so if you guys don't know, culturally that is the funk town. So you have like Ohio Players, Lakeside, Daz Band. A lot of my family members were involved in a part of those bands, and so we were around it. And then, of course, your parents introducing you to the playlist for Saturday morning cleaning up the house. So yeah, all of those things definitely inspired. But I was always drawn into the song. So like when I would listen, even as a child, it was never like a background noise for me. It was always like, what is he saying? What's the lyrics? Let me write that down. What's that sound? What's that instrument? And so I was always just drawn a little bit closer into the song.
It's interesting. I hear all three of you say that obviously it was music and it just drew you into it and it brought something out of you that maybe you didn't know at the time that you had, but it was there and it was there to be crafted and developed. So that's amazing. How do you approach your work? Is it a melody you hear first? Is it the lyrics?
Yeah, it's living life for me. It's living and being fully present in what's happening. So this conversation or this situation will inspire me, and I'll be in my car on the way home, and I'll embody whatever the sound of our meeting time together is. I mean, that'll inspire me. It may be a conversation. Sometimes it's melody. Sometimes it's lyrics. Sometimes, it's life. Life is music. There's a sound to everything. Like there's a tone and sound to everything, and every person has a sound and a tone. And so when you get to start kind of playing around with those, that's really cool for me.
Yeah, I'd say it's the same for me. But I have a kind of a tech geek thing in me, and some of the instruments and some of the tools now inspire me. Like there's just so many tools now to create sound and to record sound. So I'm inspired by sounds that can inspire a lyric, that can inspire melody, and like with me also experiences, the conversations, the one-on-one with people, the experiences through life that you go through. That's kind of my method.
I mean, I agree with what both of you said. I think it's living. For me, a lot of times I find when I travel, when I come back, not that I've even thought about writing when I'm traveling, but I come back so filled up. And it's experiences. And then I think, too, the collaborative nature of what we do. I mean, most days I'm in the room with at least one other person, or not two. And yes, it might be a melody, or it might be something that the other person said, or even you bring in an idea and you say it one way, and they see it a completely different way that you wouldn't have imagined. And so it's just, I think, being open to receiving whatever's in the room that day.
I have a question of how do you hone your craft? Like, that's great, but how do you get it from a point of an idea in your head to a completed song? Like, how do you practice that? And then when you read it, like, how do you know, is this decent? Is it good? How do you hone or practice to get to that point where you have something good on your hands?
I would say just write another one.
Keep writing.
It is I mean, I do feel like it's a muscle. It's a craft.
Yeah, for sure.
And I know when I moved to town, it was really easy to get into the Bluebird Cafe, and so I would just go. And that was kind of a schooling for me, was to hear what other writers are doing. And still to this day, I feel like I get motivated and inspired by hearing what other writers are doing. And oh man, that was, they kind of stretched it and went for something different. And so I think, but it's also just the art of showing up and keeping doing it and seeking out maybe a mentor and I think classes, anything you can do to kind of soak in what others are doing and learn from that, but ultimately trusting your what feels true to you. Yeah,
that's the question. Who were your influences? Who were some of your mentors that kind of guided you along the way?
my uncle is like a musical genius. He plays every instrument. He picks it up and he can play it. And I was really hoping that thing would fall on my fingers and I was like waiting at the piano and waiting at the guitar, and it just never happened for me. But he was definitely instrumental. I remember writing songs as a middle schooler, and like my whole goal was to play these for my uncle, and like he would think they were cool. Like that was it. And so if he validated anything that I did, I was like, oh, I'm successful. I made it. And he was a part of the Ohio Players and, you know, toured all around the world. And so he was my first musical influence. But my family's very musical driven. Like they all, but they're more on the creative side. I'm a creative and I'm on the business side. So even the business of songwriting. So.
Yeah, it's the same here. You know, I come from kind of an old school background, like practice, like the instrument, practicing the instrument, like learn your instrument. You know, I come from that side of things. Before I got into songwriting, you know, I was, like I said, on a bass guitar and running scales and just finding every type of influence that I could find and getting. I wanted to be a master of the bass guitar. Yeah, and so I just put the time in. And something, when you were speaking, something came to me as a Prince song that I love. It's called "There's Joy in Repetition." And I think that covers a lot, because if you, in repetition, you know, if you understand the repetition of doing something, eventually, you know, it'll be hard, but eventually it turns into joy, because you don't have to think about what you're doing. It just comes right through. So mentors, the records, and then Philly again. And it's like, when we say Nashville's not just country, like Philly's known as an R&B town, you know, and there's just like, I grew up with the Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes, Teddy Pendergrass,
the great
Patti LaBelle. I can't even mention them all. It's just
a lot.
That was my influence, and then I had friends, musician friends in Philly too, that really inspired me.
I think I found that to be true of Nashville, that the desire to collaborate is strong here. Like you really don't find, I don't know. Like they're like, sure, let's get in, let's write together. So I think that's a very good thing for Nashville, because you can be paired with somebody who may have a different writing style than you, or something like that, or maybe even a completely different genre. So I think that's really good.
It's a writer's town. People come here from all over the world to learn how to write a record. That's amazing. This is where we're at. This is where we live, eat, breathe. Like, so tap in. You know, I like to treat myself like someone who's visiting. Like, they come in and they get plugged. Because that's what's happening here all over the world. World-renowned people, artists, they come here to learn how to write a record.
So true.
So when we think about, you know, the collaboration process and the process of writing a song, what do you guys think would be the key elements to a song? Or is it on an individual basis?
I mean, slightly on an individual basis, but I think, at least for me, it's the idea. And if there's a solid idea, it's kind of like the foundation of a house. If that's there, then you know what to do, you know how to build it. And I'd say that's a lot of the time of how it works, but then on the flip side, also to be open to sometimes just starting to write, and sometimes it just comes. It just flows. So it's like being flexible, but also being prepared, if that makes sense.
A lot of times in writes, I've seen them go multiple ways. So there may be a write and we spend half of the time talking, and then naturally get into the songwriting, because I'm like, okay, I know we came here to write, and I think we're going to get to that before we get there. And sometimes you go right in and you jump right into the write, because there's a reason that there's goals and there's timelines and there's things that have to be delivered. And I think just being open and present in the room and knowing who you are as a songwriter and what you bring to the room, being fully present in that way. And am I a lead writer here today? Am I a support writer? Am I a melody person? Understanding how I got in the room and like delivering that.
That's great. Yeah, it's the same with me. I think I've been concentrating on my strengths since I've gotten here, as opposed to like my weaknesses, like when I do co-writes. And let me just go back. One thing that inspired me, I moved here from Atlanta, and Atlanta, I guess it was my cable network. It didn't have the CMT network. When I got here, CMT, what's that? And I'm watching it, and after every song, they would give the credits on the songs. You'd see 6, 7, 8 writers. I was like, whoa, this is it, you know, because it's a very collaborative type of scene here. And I know it's CMT, and that's pretty much all of the United States, but that inspired me. And then when I started doing like collaborative sessions, I concentrated on my strengths. It's like, okay, I can do production, I can get a song, I can get beats together. So I concentrated on that, and then I connected with some really good lyricists, and then melody writers. I'm good with melodies, but sometimes lyrics just like, wow, Lord.
I need a good lyric.
Help me.
You know, so I try to collaborate with people who are good at that.
Right.
So I can concentrate on my strengths, they can concentrate on their strengths, and we can make it happen.
I have a question. How do you approach writing for yourself versus writing for someone else or an artist? How do you take on that challenge?
Yeah, I think with the artist, or if it's a co-writer that's wanting to say something, it's having a conversation. It's talking to them before you get into the song. What's going on in your life, or what do you feel like you need for your project, or what are you looking for? Sometimes they know, sometimes they don't know, and it's your job to just hopefully get in there and write something that feels true to them, and that connects in some way, and then you hope you get a great song, but you also hope you have a great experience, and that's a good day, and that you get the opportunity to do it again.
Right. Be invited back.
Yes. Yes.
For me, it's similar. I want to get to know the artist. I mean, it's almost like, how can we write something for someone that I don't know? It could be a great song, but if there's something that I know particularly about you, that one switch in a lyric or one switch in a concept would make it relate more to that artist. Yeah, so I kind of take them through this, get to know you in a very short period of time, and I just like vibe out with them. And then I also ask them sometimes before sessions, when it's applicable, send me some references of sonics that you are feeling right now. Like, where are you at sonically? Because production and songwriting, it can go from A to Z. So I want to prepare myself to kind of, because what I've learned is that when I go study an artist's music that's out, they're not there sonically anymore. They've already done that. So it's like, how am I going to bring something new that hadn't already been done? Because they already got a team that delivered that. So there's no need for me if that's what we're doing. So I'll try to kind of get into their psyche. Where are you listening to? What's on your playlist? Like, what sonically, where are you at? Who are you vibing to just as a consumer? You know, some of those things.
What are some of the avenues that you would navigate to market that and monetize your craft and what you do? So can you guys speak to a little bit about that?
Such a good question. I've been waiting for that question. So here's the deal with songwriting, and this is what I learned on my journey. So the first goal was just to finish a song. Once you finish, you go, okay, it's to finish consistently finish songs. And it's like, oh, well, we need artists. Somebody's got to cut this record. So then it's to the next goal is find an artist who's willing to cut your record. And then a lot of times it's like, okay, or just write with the artist so that they can cut it, and now we don't have to find anyone. So then you get the cut, and there's no marketing budget. There's just a release. There's just a DSP release. It's like, oh yeah, well, this is available everywhere, but nobody knows. For me as a songwriter, that is counterproductive. Like, having a whole bunch of credits with no marketing budget or independent label support. Is that what I really want to do? Yes, I need the credits, but at the end of the day, you want credits that are going to advance you and get you into new spaces and places, and you want them with the right people. So then it was like, well, find artists that have like centers of influence where they have social media following, and so this whole journey. So naturally, because of the hole in the marketplace in the urban music scene, I had to start getting more into business and marketing of music, which that's what I went to school for, but I didn't plan on having to evolve there. But as a songwriter, that's a career. You have to do what helps you make money. And so now providing label support services to the artists that I work with, that's become my thing. Because it's like, if we write another great record that nobody knows about, Who does that help?
Right.
None of us. Or how do we make this artist attractive to someone who wants to come and get involved? You know, well, you don't even have branding. We don't even know. Like, there's a whole thing. And so you just start trying to write with the right type of artist. And you do your research as far as the marketplace and understanding. Like, one of the things I did, I started writing with artists that had at least 10K followers. That's not a lot, by the way. 10K, that is very small in the world of where we deal in. But you start somewhere and then you organically grow. So from 10K, and I got 4 cuts with an artist that had about 10 to 15. Well, during that time, his following grew to like 75K. So, because I do look for artists that are emerging.
Right.
I look to write with artists that are moving. So I am a little more selective with who I write with today. But it's only because as a career and a mother and a wife, kind of gotta be. So I'll help anyone on their journey, but yeah, we do have to talk about how do we monetize this thing. How do you even become attractive for labels to invite you into rights for their artists? And so you do have to develop your portfolio in a way that puts you in.
You
those
have to be
spaces.
strategic.
Very. It's business. It is business. Songwriting is creative, but advancing your career as a songwriter is a business.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're all our own CEO. Really. I mean, yes, we're creative, but we also, no one's going to care more. No matter how fabulous your team is, if you have a team, you know they're going to have other people they're working with.
Absolutely.
And you are the only person that is steering your ship ultimately. So it's being smart. It's working hard, but it's working smart and choosing how you're stacking up your calendar with rights and how it makes sense. Because yes, it's especially today with the way album sales are. It's how are you able to have a career? And I think you said the emerging artist because get in with those folks that you believe in that are starting to get some momentum. The relationship's already made, and then as they go, hopefully
as they get a
go with them. And that opens other doors.
Yeah,
if you have a hit on them, then other artists are going to want to work with you.
How do you know when you're ready for a publisher?
That's good.
It is good.
So when are you ready? When you can deliver consistent songs, like when you can consistently deliver rights. It's not a hobby anymore. You can go into any room and be productive and be on the side of commercial viability and monetize. Like, think about it. A publisher is there. I mean, they're thinking about money.
That's it. They're not thinking about money. That's it.
So
how much is going out and how much is coming in?
They got to look at you and see the money that they can make off of you or with you. Yeah. I do look at publishing from a different set of eyes because it is a partnership and some of them do make sense. I focus on sync as far as with money and understanding that market and learning that market, and so have had some successes there. But yeah, for me, I think when you can consistently, make money as a songwriter, a publisher, and it might be small things, it might be like, hey, I know a girl, she charged like $200 for a hook. That's her little hook hustle. But guess what? She's making money from her craft. Right. If I was a publisher, I'm interested in that. Like, how many people are paying you $200 to write a hook? Yeah. Oh, wow. And that's with no promotion and you're not in a room with big. So I think everything is still a business. When are you ready? When you can consistently deliver records that are of commercial value.
That's a great answer.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I always have taken the opposite approach to almost everything. After Arrested Development, I got a lot of confidence from that success because it gives you a different level of vision because you can see what it's like on another level, on a higher level. So I've always thought in a different direction. After the group kind of disbanded, I always wanted to do music for television. I always loved commercials. I loved movies. I loved those kinds of things. So I just concentrated on, okay, I want my music on TV and I want my music in film. And this is when I was living in Atlanta. And the first thing I did was I went out and got this book called The Book of List. The Book of List is still available. What the Book of List is, it's a list of every business in any town that you live in. So I went directly for advertising agencies. And so I cold called I started from the top, because in the book of lists, it gives you the name of the company, the revenue that they've generated for the year. And so all the advertisers were there, so it went to number
write
one.
that down, the book of lists.
Yes. It's a little expensive. It's about $135, but one gig will pay for it. And so I started cold call. I went to the top. At the top at that time was Ogilvy and Mather, and another one was West Wayne, and then it was McCann Erickson. And all these were like Coca-Cola, Sprite, any brand you can name. So I'm cold calling these places, and the book of lists also gives you who is the contact person, which I was going for the VP of broadcast. So all the VP of broadcast is there. Or the president of broadcast. I call up, hey, I'm Kamal, Resident Velvet, blah blah blah. Are you looking for music for your television spots? And a lot of no's, but a guy named John Adams at a company advertising agency called West Wayne. They had like AT&T. They had they had some pretty big accounts. So he invited me for a meeting. I got there and we were talking, and he's like, okay, I love what you guys are doing. We're doing something similar to this here. We want that kind of R&B, kind of hip hop kind of sound. And it was 2 AT&T commercials. And he said, so do you think you can work with $30,000 for those two?
Yeah.
So I don't know what the look on my face was. I said, I think I could work with that.
I think I can pull
He was
something
dancing
off.
upside down.
Yes.
You learn how to keep the composure. You're like, oh, there's a bunch of, I can work with that.
Yeah. So I nailed it. Because a lot of it is timing, and if you're ready, a lot of success comes to you when you're ready. If you're not ready, don't be down if you don't get something, because believe me, my I wouldn't say failures, flops, discouragements, they heavily outweigh the successes. But it didn't stop me. It inspired me. So I concentrated on television music, and I wanted to have my music on TV. That was the main thing. And so I took that approach and got the context of these companies that were putting their music and their brands on television. And so I just took a different approach. It's a different approach to songwriting. Although you're writing songs, they'll give you a storyboard, and you have to craft a song to the storyboard of the commercial. But that is another aspect of songwriting. And there's many ways to monetize what we do as songwriters. There's many different ways. So I say, just be broad with your concept of how you're going to make money from what you do.
What was the look you gave him when he said the budget again?
He said he didn't remember the look.
I think all right, okay, I can.
I think I can remember. Let me make some phone calls.
Yes, and I still have that check on my refrigerator as a reminder. I still have it. I'm not going to move it. I'm going to keep it there as a reminder that you can make it.
If you could offer any advice that hasn't been said already to the new songwriters in the room, who may be just starting out, what would that be?
Really know who you are as a songwriter. Like, knowing who you are as a person and as a songwriter, like, it's so instrumental, because you could be wasting your time in situations that really aren't gonna help you forward motion you. So I call them side steps. Like, I don't like to play east and west when we're talking about music and career. I like to play north. I like to move forward. And so knowing who you are as a writer and really what you bring to a table, and then consistently delivering that. So the second thing would be intentional collaborations. Intentional. So once you know who you are and you've identified what type of collaborator do you need that will help you kind of fill some of the voice that you have, then you go bang out a lot of records with that person. And knock them on out, instead of like spreading yourself so wide all the time. Sometimes just maybe there's like 3 people that I write with consistently, but I know we're gonna get to a good rhythm. We're gonna get catalog done. A lot of times we write with 1,000 people. Like, it's too many. It's like all over the place. I think there's a time for that, but when you're trying to be productive and really hone in, be selective, be intentional.
Yeah. Well, and I think to go with that too, it's putting a brand on yourself,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So when someone thinks of you as a writer, what do they want them to automatically think? She's an amazing melody person, or she's an amazing lyricist, or he's an amazing production guy. Like, think about the intentional part is huge. And then I think continuing to never thinking, oh, I know how to write a song now. You know what? We can all get better. Like the minute we say we stop learning is the middle the time that we're in trouble. And so I think to continue to grow, to be open. And I mean, I look at writers that have been doing it for several decades, and they're still doing it, and they're still open to new ideas and writing with young people and outside their genre. It's the people that are flexible with that are the people that are still here
thriving
and not getting too rigid in one way, because and even technology, all of it, and stylistically it's always changing, and it's staying true to yourself and staying true to your brand, but being able to go with it as it changes.
I agree with that 100%. It's a honing your craft, learning music. You don't have to be musical. You don't have to learn how to read music. Stevie Wonder doesn't read music.
He's amazing.
But I'm sure he could tell you every chord progression and every key that you can imagine. So I say learning the craft, learning songwriting, learning what music is. Music is music, and learning music. A lot of times I see going for these goals too soon, because you'll get a lot of discouragement. I mean, it takes time to learn music and to develop lyric. What kind of deep lyric can you write at 17 years old? And you want a publishing deal, you want a record deal. It's like you're 17. And, what have you experienced? And so I'd say honing your craft and not going for too much too soon. Just get really good and compare yourself to others, and high goals, high standards. I think
I like you saying that, like not making premature moves, because those can be so detrimental to your career. Sometimes you just do get one shot. The other thing I would say I did, this has helped me a ton, was replicate records that are on the charts. So if I know I'm going after this type of music, this is what worked for me. Not to lose myself as a writer. I mean, not to lose myself in trending, but knowing how hits are put together did make me a better writer. Understanding format, understanding is it a 4-bar intro? Are we right into the hook? What is happening in these records, and then deconstructing, like, okay, are there 4 sounds here? Because that's relevant when we're writing. What's the melody? How many melody changes happen? Like, so not to using that information because it's relevant to the market, but not, like being locked into it. But you do need to be aware, because you are wanting to write stuff for the marketplace.
If you don't know something, just type in your computer GOOG. You will get the answer. And if you don't get the direct answer, you'll get you'll get inspiration from that query that you do. So that's what I say. Use the tools that we've got available to us.
I would say one more thing. From a networking standpoint, find you some advocates, people who are in the business, and they don't have to necessarily be the one who can help advance your career, but they believe in you and what you're doing and your vision. Having advocates and champions, like somebody who knows about what you're doing.
She's talking about me.
It's not just the lead, but yes, she definitely is. But having people around you who know what you are doing. Most of us are writing by ourselves in our 4 corners, and nobody knows that you're a songwriter. So guess what? The likelihood of you making it as a songwriter is the chances are slim, because somebody needs to know what you are doing, and then you share it and let them give you feedback. And sometimes it hurts you, like, oh
call somebody, ask somebody to coffee, say, can I buy you a coffee and pick your brain? Just
again, some advocates.
Nashville's good for that, because Nashville's a very friendly city.
Yes, compared to others.
Yes, this is my 4th city, and by hands down, people are kind and friendly here, and you can approach them and there's no
Publishers will actually listen to your music, like everyone else.
Yes.
And like, and I had one was like, "Hey, you're not ready," and I was like, "You're right."
Yeah, but at least
you
yeah, but you got some response.
I wasn't. I mean, and that's a real thing. You need to know you're not ready, so you keep working. You know, it's okay not to be ready. Get ready.
Yeah.
Yeah. Keep working.
Yes.
What mistakes can you advise us not to make as new writers?
And it's kind of what we talked about is being aware of trends and being aware of what's there if you're wanting to be a commercial writer, but not chasing anything too hard. I mean, also keeping that voice so that someone knows you as a writer. I think when I started, I was trying to change the world with every song, like so much.
Make a party record.
And that didn't work. It just didn't work. And so then I went the other way, and I'm like, well, everything just needs to be fluffy and light, and that didn't work either. And it was kind of coming back to the middle and finding, I'm like, I just need to write what feels right, instead of trying to chase what I think somebody might want to hear.
I like that she said every song does not have to be so deep. That is a constant challenge that I face in the writing room. It is, I'm like, y'all, it's music.
Yeah, it should be fun.
It should be fun. It should be feel. Because at the end of the song, when somebody listens, we want them to feel something.
Yes.
So if we can't deliver that in the creation process, how do we expect the artist to embody that song and feel it? How do we expect that end user to feel something? So just remember, there's a science to this stuff, but don't get too technical when it comes to songwriting. There's a phase for that. It's called production and post-production. But in the pre-production or the writing, like, be okay with just being really cool and creative, and then we'll start putting structure on it and getting it where it needs to be. Don't like make post-production decisions in the pre-production process. Like, you're producing a record that hadn't been written yet. What is going on in this room?
I would just say not too many lyrics. Sometimes it's going to be hard to sing or something. We've had to slash this word, now
Make
it
it
flows,
singable.
So sometimes in trying to get your story out, you might be using too many words. Like, you can maybe figure out a way to get the message across, maybe, but not so many syllables and things that have to be accented and sung, and things like that. And I'm speaking because I am not a writer. And so Mimi has brought me in, we've written these things. Can we get your opinion before we go to post-production? Because I'm coming with the commercial ear, that part of it, so we don't waste our time going, because I've been in there, I'm like, nope, that's not it.
That's not going to post.
just that's not it. Do a rewrite. The hook is good, but we need different, so bring in someone who may not be a creative at all, who's only a consumer, and one who, is just for that purpose, can help you too, so that you don't end up going down a road, because post-production can get expensive. When you're talking about these things, we have to be conscious of the budget as well. Writing on paper, and that's cool, but now that we got something, getting in the studio recording, we got to bring in. And that's where I come in. That's my side of it. So.
And she's really a fan. There's a fan, you need fans to listen, because they're going to listen as a fan. Does this move you? And it's like, no. Well, if this is my fan, who am I writing this song for? They're part of that. So it's almost like a little focus group, or like people that you respect, who you respect their music IQ or their business of music IQ. And if someone's willing to listen to your songs, share them. Please send them and say, critique them, feedback, do whatever. They'll do it. People will tell you how they feel about your song. I've never had somebody be like, no. They're like,
I remember reps.
Yes, and this is a great resource here. Yes. They will, and they know a lot of other songwriters, and they can probably help connect some dots. So,
all right. Well, I want to thank our panelists for this portion.